These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up. Chaos erupted on The View as Karoline Leavitt dropped a bombshell revelation, leaving the hosts scrambling to defend themselves. Democrats in the media are now unloading all their nasty attacks on rising Trump White House star and new press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. Watch this. Today, we're diving into exactly what went down, why her explosive exposé has everyone talking, and what this could mean for the future of the show. If you've been wondering what sparked this meltdown, buckle up. You're in the right place. The drama is heating up all because of Karoline Leavitt's bold shake-up of the political landscape. These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up. It's no secret that The View loves stirring the pot, but this time, they bit off way more than they could chew. When Karoline entered the spotlight as Trump's press secretary, Democrats launched their attacks. She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is. But their smear campaign didn't just fail, it backfired spectacularly. What began as petty jealousy has now left their reputations in tatters, thanks to Karoline's no-holds-barred approach. The hosts of The View are left scrambling to clean up their own mess. Trust me, the fallout is nothing short of epic. Take Joy Behar, for example. She's a self-proclaimed feminist who constantly preaches about empowering women, but she crossed a line when she reduced Karoline's accomplishments to nothing more than her looks. The hypocrisy is glaring. How can someone claim to stand for women's rights and then tear down a successful young woman in the same breath? Karoline, being in a league of her own, didn't hesitate to call out these woke cronies. These women are completely out of touch with reality, and you're right, ABC should wake up. But wait, if Karoline's a 10, where does that leave Joy? Leave it to Greg Gutfeld from Fox News to throw major shade, delivering a punchline that had everyone talking. And let's just say, the internet hasn't stopped laughing since. Behar calls her a 10? I mean, how dare she objectify a woman with a sexist rating system? But it's such a typical thing from a 1.5. But Karoline didn't stop there. She also had choice words for the Democratic propaganda machine. She made it crystal clear, either ride the Trump wave or get forgotten. Once Trump is done with them, they won't have any SC, or media distractions to keep them relevant. Their so-called relevance is on borrowed time. They can either get on board or prepare to lose another election, just like they did on November 5th. Judging by the stunned silence on The View, they felt every bit of that reality check. It's clear to anyone watching, The View is just jealous that a younger, sharper, and actually deserving person is outshining them. After Joy's crude remarks, Whoopi Goldberg swooped in, trying to spin a different narrative that had Americans reeling. She went full mother-hen mode, scolding Karoline for what she called a lack of tolerance for weakness. She said something yesterday that really pissed me off, and that was, she said there will be no wokeness here. Oh yeah. Let me explain something to you, because without that wokeness, you might not have that job. But let's be real, Whoopi wasn't preaching wisdom, she was scrambling to control the damage. And Karoline, she wasn't having any of it. In a now viral clip, Whoopi tried to blur the lines between civil rights and wokeness, acting like they were the same thing. Karoline wasn't fooled for a second. She called out Whoopi's flawed logic with brutal precision, making it clear that Whoopi either didn't know the difference or was deliberately misleading her audience. And judging by Whoopi's reaction, she definitely felt that burn. Women were not invited to that table. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds was to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now, to hear you talk about it? To hear anybody talk about the wokeness. The wokeness was put in place for a reason. If Whoopi is such a fierce supporter of women's rights, why didn't she call out Joy Behar for reducing Karoline's success to her appearance? Maybe because Whoopi's so-called moral compass only points left. Instead of holding her co-host accountable, Whoopi attacked Karoline after the 27-year-old dared to use her first White House press conference to call out the legacy media for losing the trust of everyday Americans. Whoopi conveniently pulled the race card, trying to make it about identity politics instead of addressing the real issue. Classic deflection. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all W. But Karoline wasn't done. She took a shot at The View for spreading baseless accusations, like when they tried to pin an assassination attempt on Elon Musk. She pointed out the irony of the hosts constantly calling for accountability while recklessly pushing fake news. How ironic that Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans conspiracy theorists, yet they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years. She reminded them that just a few years ago, the media was singing a different tune. Now, desperate to control the narrative, they twist anything to fit their agenda. Karoline wasn't about to let them get away with it. They likened President Trump to Hitler. They have mocked him. They have shamed him. They have lied about him consistently on their show. And it was a joy to watch them on November 6th, when they realized that tens of millions of Americans do not listen to the lies they have spewed for years. The View and other legacy media outlets have pushed whatever narrative suited them, silenced opposition, and shaped public opinion without facing any consequences. But thanks to Karoline's bold stance, the era of unchecked propaganda is finally coming to an end. She's young, but she's wise beyond her years. And she has access to the president, which is something someone else didn't have. With her call for accountability, these outlets are being forced to answer for their reporting. And let's be honest, this is their worst nightmare. Without the ability to spin the truth, their entire playbook is crumbling. Karoline just flipped the script on legacy media, and now The View is losing it. Karoline announced a game-changing shakeup in the White House press pool, introducing a new media section to hold traditional outlets accountable for years of biased reporting and misinformation about President Trump. "We will call you out when we feel your reporting is wrong or when there is misinformation about this White House," Karoline declared. For decades, the Associated Press and the White House Correspondents Association controlled the room, dictating who got to ask questions and which narratives were pushed. But not anymore. Karoline made it crystal clear. Legacy media would no longer run the show unchecked. 2 front-row seats, once reserved for White House staff, would now go to new media voices that actually challenged the establishment. And if that wasn't enough to send The View into a meltdown, Karoline also restored press passes for 440 journalists who had been wrongfully revoked under the Biden administration. "The president doesn't surround himself with anybody smart," Joy Behar scoffed, dismissing the move. Of course, this reaction was expected. Conservative women have long learned to push forward and ignore criticism from voices like The View. The media's hostility was no surprise. While many praised the push for transparency, the View panel had a very different reaction. Sunny Hostin scoffed at the idea of new media reporters being qualified to attend briefings, acting as if only legacy media elites deserved a seat at the table. Whoopi Goldberg chimed in with her usual condescending tone, warning that under the new administration, people would just spout stuff. The irony was glaring. For years, mainstream media, including The View, has done exactly that, twisting narratives to fit their agenda. But now that Karoline is holding them accountable, suddenly, Whoopi wants to talk about standards. In a bizarre rant, Whoopi conflated the term wokeness with civil rights, women's voting rights, and property ownership, topics that had nothing to do with what Karoline had actually said. Wokeness, as Karoline meant it, referred to promoting individuals based on immutable characteristics rather than merit. But Whoopi, in an attempt to twist the narrative, completely missed the point. At the end of the day, this wasn't about journalism or ethics. It was about attention. The hosts of The View thrive on being in the spotlight, dictating what the public should think. Now, with millions of Americans turning to alternative media sources, their influence is slipping away, and they absolutely hate it. Karoline Leavitt, the youngest press secretary in U.S. history, directly called out traditional media for losing the public's trust. She made it clear, "We will call you out when we feel your reporting is wrong or when there is misinformation about this White House." And now, The View is feeling the heat. For years, they spread misinformation and smears without real pushback. But those days are over. Karoline just put the entire legacy media on notice. Let's not forget, Karoline replaced Karine Jean-Pierre, who often reminded everyone of her identity at every turn. But Karoline has proven that leadership isn't about checking diversity boxes. It's about holding power accountable and speaking for the American people. When The View failed to take her down with cheap shots, they tried to trap her with a classic gotcha question about illegal immigration. They thought they had her cornered. Spoiler alert, they didn't. ICE has made 3,500 arrests since President Trump returned to office. Can you tell us how many of those have a criminal record versus those who are just in the country illegally? Karoline didn't hesitate. All of them, because they illegally broke our nation's laws. Just like that, their entire argument crumbled. But instead of admitting defeat, The View doubled down, pushing the same tired left-wing narrative. This administration views someone who breaks our immigration laws as a criminal. The last administration didn't see it that way. It's a big culture shift, one of the hosts argued. But that's exactly the point. Breaking the law is illegal. The hosts love to act like they care about justice, but this wasn't about defending immigrants. It was about trying to trip up a woman who was too smart to fall for their games. Karoline, however, was loving every minute of it. "I work for a president who is getting things done, who is delivering on the promises he made to the American people," she said confidently. She isn't just taking on The View. She's taking on the entire legacy media machine. She's exposing their playbook for all to see. And as they struggle to keep up, they're only proving her point. In the end, Karoline dropped the ultimate truth bomb. There is so much good news, so much winning, coming from the Trump White House right now that mainstream media can't keep up. Meanwhile, Democrats are in complete disarray because they've become a globalist party that spends taxpayer dollars on useless priorities just to cater to the left's demands. For years, legacy media has been nothing more than a mouthpiece for the Democratic agenda. But now, with Karoline holding them accountable, they have no idea what to do with themselves. The moment someone challenges them, they crumble. So, what do you think? Are we witnessing the downfall of mainstream media dominance, or will they find a way to claw their way back into power? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more hard-hitting breakdowns like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because trust me, this fight is far from over.